just before Obama was about to receive a briefing that contained no reference to significant Russian interference. That briefing was called off, and a high-level meeting of White House security officials was convened, after which Obama himself tasked them with a new assessment that would lean toward a more aggressive conclusion. The critical job of divining Russia's motives would be given to the CIA and...
The biggest attacker of the press in modern presidential history was Barack Obama, actually, who was extremely
I never
draconian.
defended Barack Obama on that.
I was interested earlier.
Piers, I never defended
I was interested
Barack
earlier
Obama.
because you were talking about how Trump put people in cages and all this kind of thing. Do you know who deported the most people in American presidential history?
Yes, Barack Obama, and I called him out for
Do you know who also put lots of people in cages and separated families? Oh, that would be Obama.
Do you know who...
Megyn Kelly and Piers Morgan didn't just challenge Barack Obama. They took apart the polished image he's maintained for years. Kelly examined the inconsistencies in his record with sharp precision, while Morgan's straightforward commentary stripped away the presentation to reveal what they see as a more ordinary reality. The calm persona, the lofty speeches, and the carefully curated legacy all came under scrutiny, leaving behind a version of Obama that doesn't quite match the public image.
Paragraph. In the letters that were given to you, it just said a paragraph about homosexuality. This has made a lot of news, but it turns out that he was writing to his then girlfriend. This is, back in the younger years, about how he had repeated fantasies of having sex with men. Now, what do you make of this? It's like, is Barack Obama a gay man? Is he a bisexual?
In that video? No. Pull that video up, because it's one of my favorites.
How many illegal immigrants did Barack Obama deport in his 8 years as president?
Oh, I don't know.
Have a guess.
No clue.
No clue. Interesting, right? You don't know.
I mean, I know it was a lot, but I don't know the exact number.
Have a guess.
Oh, I don't know.
The answer is over 3 million. He was known as deporter-in-chief by Mexicans.
Yes, and that was more than Trump.
Way more than Trump. He deported way more than any...
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. For years, Barack Obama has cultivated a reputation for composure, smooth speeches, and an almost cinematic legacy. But when Megyn Kelly starts to unpack that image, the shine begins to fade. She argues that much of his career was built on speeches that sounded profound but didn't always translate into lasting results. A brand of politics that often felt more like marketing than leadership.
Trump, just now, he was just caught on camera saying, well, we'll play both of them in succession.
That you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up to 2020 of the election. They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that.
Supporters often describe Obama as a towering intellectual in modern politics. Kelly challenges that view, suggesting his strength was performance rather than substance. His speeches had rhythm, timing, and emotion. But behind the style, she says, was a leader who sometimes delayed decisions until they were unavoidable, focusing heavily on optics over action.
Well, I mean, you can bet everything that if Trump had some letter in which he talked about repeatedly fantasizing about having sex with men, it would be everywhere. To me, as a member of the media, this just seems like the media running cover for him on this is something that would be embarrassing potentially to him, and they don't want to.
On foreign policy, Kelly recalls promises of a reset in America's global role, but points to examples like the unfulfilled red line in Syria, a stalled pivot to Asia, and the Iran deal, which she views as more about image than lasting security. For her, this was less the record of a transformative leader and more the work of a president keenly aware of his own public narrative.
David, just to pick up on the Jeremiah Wright thing, and I don't know Jeremiah Wright, never heard him referred to as Jerry. We don't have to revisit that entire...
He's a lovely person.
Okay, he may be lovely, but I remember the goddamn America, the chickens that come home to roost on 9/11. Not lovely. Not at all. And the reason people thought he was anti-Semitic was he said the reason that President Obama had not spoken with him in a long time was, quote, this is from him directly, them Jews ain't going to let him talk to me. I told my baby daughter that he'd talk to me in 5 years when he's a lame duck.
Kelly also highlights moments where she believes rhetoric and reality didn't align. Public condemnations of corporate excess were followed by appointments from the same circles. Promises of transparency coexisted with aggressive actions against whistleblowers. To her, it's a reminder that popularity can sometimes soften the way history remembers contradictions.
Interviewed Garrow, and boy, did it make headlines. Among them, Garrow, again, who did this comprehensive biography on Barack Obama, saying that the former president is as insecure as Donald Trump, calling Obama's own memoir a work of fiction, discussing Mr. Obama's apparent anti-Semitism, and as if that's not enough,
Even on cultural issues, Obama often chose to remain above the fray. Kelly argues that while his speeches on unity were memorable, they sometimes came without direct action on the problems beneath them. She describes him as a symbol of hope whose follow-through didn't always match the inspiration. And in his post-presidency life, she sees a shift from public service to high-profile media ventures, more celebrity than statesman.
This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents.
There he is on camera saying he thinks Barack Obama is guilty of treason. And that is a word Tulsi used too. It may be too dramatic, but I don't know. I mean, it certainly is a threat.
Piers Morgan adds his own sharp take, calling Obama a skilled political marketer rather than a groundbreaking policymaker. He suggests Obama mastered the art of managing expectations and celebrating modest achievements as major victories. Together, Kelly and Morgan's contrasting styles, her detailed breakdown and his direct bluntness, work to challenge the long-standing perception of Obama's presidency. They argue that once the surface is peeled back, the image of greatness begins to look less solid and more like a story shaped for the spotlight.
Bombs in a calendar year in American history.
Oh, President Barack Obama.
Barack Obama,
Yeah.
right? Including drone programs and so on, right? Who got elected in 08-09 on shutting down Guantanamo Bay? Because as a former lawyer, he believed it was an illegal institution.
President
Barack
Barack
Obama.
Obama.
What is still open today?
Guantanamo Bay?
Correct. Etc., etc., etc. I know that the general thing is Obama, angel, Trump, devil. But if you actually apply the scrutiny that we give Trump, put it this way, if Trump had deported 3 million people, you think you guys wouldn't know?
When the conversation shifts to domestic policy, Piers Morgan raises the stakes. He frames Obama's legacy in this area as a string of unfinished drafts and promises that sounded compelling in speeches, but often faltered in execution. Healthcare is the prime example. The Affordable Care Act was promoted as a defining achievement, yet it ended up as a complex patchwork shaped by lobbyists, consultants, and political compromises. While expanded coverage for some, others faced higher premiums, and its launch was marred by a website rollout so flawed it became a running joke. For Kelly, it was less a streamlined reform and more of a marketing victory dressed as progress. Then there's the economy. Obama walked into a severe financial crisis, but his approach leaned heavily on bailouts that stabilized the very institutions tied to the collapse. Wall Street rebounded and the stock market surged, but many working families felt left behind in the recovery. The man who campaigned as a champion for everyday Americans, Kelly argues, ended up reinforcing a system that kept the financial elite secure. In her view, speeches about fairness and opportunity don't mean much when the results skew toward the already powerful.
Suggest that Barack Obama and his government and the CIA under his tenure launched a chemical weapons attack on Syrian people. Do you seriously think that's what happened?
I'm not saying that Obama did it. Most of the time when the CIA does things, the presidents have no idea what the CIA is doing.
But you think the CIA would launch a chemical weapons attack simply to smear Assad?
Kelly also highlights what she sees as one of Obama's biggest contradictions, his relationship with presidential power. He ran as a reformer promising to pull back on the heavy-handed executive authority of the previous administration. Yet once in office, he expanded drone strikes and surveillance programs, embedding them as permanent tools of U.S. policy. For Kelly, it showed a president who branded himself as the thoughtful alternative, but often embraced the very powers he once criticized. She also notes Obama's tendency to narrate events rather than drive them. Every major challenge became an opportunity for a speech, a statement, or a carefully crafted address about what should be done, but the follow-through sometimes lagged behind the rhetoric. As she frames it, understanding a problem and solving it are two different things, and Obama often excelled more at the first than the second. This connects to what Kelly calls the cult of personality around his presidency. Hope and change became not just political slogans, but commercial symbols, printed on posters, mugs, and T-shirts, woven into books and documentaries. To her, it felt as if the political brand became as important as the governing itself. The inspiration was real, but without consistent substance behind it. She says it left the country with a sense of promise that didn't always translate into results.
Fuel on the fire that there's a potential, maybe a divorce or some sort of rockiness going on in the Obamas relationship. They both posted these mirrored, very choreographed Valentine's Day messages on X, but he was just seen at an LA, the basketball team, the Clippers, thank you, game without her. And then on Tuesday, he was spotted eating out at a fancy dinner in Sherman Oaks with both daughters, Malia and Sasha, but again, no Michelle, according to TMZ. So,
I think they seem to be soft launching their divorce. I mean, if it were the opposite and all of these rumors are flying, wouldn't they make a concerted effort to be seen together? Or just absolutely issue a statement saying there's no truth to these?
Piers Morgan comes back in with his trademark exasperation, questioning why so many of Obama's supporters still cling to his image as if it's immune to criticism. To Morgan, it's almost surreal. Grown adults defending the idea of Obama's greatness as though his presence alone proves it. He argues that too often, charisma gets mistaken for competence, as if delivering a perfectly polished line to a camera is the same thing as solving the underlying problem. It's like applauding a weatherman for giving a flawless forecast while the storm outside is already flooding the streets. Morgan's bluntness cuts through the reverence, pointing out that charisma doesn't fill potholes, fix the economy, or strengthen international relationships. As a public figure, Obama was unmatched in presence. A historic figure, a cultural icon, a man who could walk into a room and command attention instantly. But Morgan's point is that as president, the record doesn't match the aura. Instead of bold action, he sees a pattern of missed opportunities, surface-level wins, and a careful avoidance of the hardest political battles. To Morgan, it felt like Obama was more concerned with how history would remember him than with the urgent needs right in front of him. The focus on legacy is exactly why the critique lands so sharply, because when a leader's energy is spent perfecting the image, pulling back the curtain can be devastating.
Hold on, finish yet. Do you know who dropped the most bombs in a calendar year? Oh, Barack Obama. Do you know who ran illegal drone programs that killed thousands of innocent people? Oh, so, Barack Obama. Do you know who actually campaigned in 08-09 to shut down Guantanamo Bay because as a former lawyer, he knew it was an illegal torture chamber? Oh, it's still open. So I'm afraid, Megyn, your revisionism
so this is the problem, Piers.
of Saint Barack against evil Donald doesn't quite...
Kelly then shifts the lens to Obama's life after the White House, where she sees another layer of contrast between the image and reality. Far from stepping quietly into the background, Obama and Michelle launched a highly visible media career, signing multi-million-dollar deals with Netflix, Spotify, and top publishing houses. None of it is improper, but Kelly argues it reshapes the selfless public servant narrative into something much more commercial. Instead of the reluctant leader called to serve, it now looks like the presidency was the opening act for a second career in the entertainment and media spotlight. She also points out how Obama still maintains a strong presence in political life. His voice resurfaces in speeches, his endorsements carry weight, and his influence is felt in Democratic strategy. To Kelly, it's like the star quarterback who graduated years ago, but still shows up at every alumni game, eager to replay the glory days. She's not mocking his achievements, but rather questioning why someone so associated with moving forward seems so unwilling to fully step aside and let the next generation take the lead.
Several things, Megyn. Both Alex McNair, who was Barack's girlfriend of 1981 to 1983, and Genevieve Cook, who was his girlfriend in New York in 84, 85, both shared with me all the letters that Barack had written them back then. Barack was very much someone who was sending handwritten letters.
For Kelly and Morgan, dismantling the Obama myth isn't about personal attacks or partisan shouting matches. It's about methodically laying out the record and letting the facts speak for themselves. They present it almost like an autopsy of a political legacy, opening it up and examining each part. The contradictions, the speeches that inspired but didn't always lead to concrete results. The moments that looked transformative in photographs but fell short in policy impact. Piece by piece, they strip away the layers of branding until all that remains is the machinery of image making. The hope and change slogans, the carefully staged backdrops, the perfectly timed pauses and speeches, it all starts to look like the work of a skilled storyteller rather than a transformative leader. And like any good story, it can be captivating the first time you hear it. But once you know the beats, the magic fades, and you start noticing what's missing between the lines.